Hey ladies and gentlemen, Javier here with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel where we apply the principles of philosophy, spirituality, and mysticism to rapid lifestyle transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, I was meditating after I got done doing some work on the Great Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I meditate on it often because the book changes on each reading and I get more deep insights into it. And I had an insight, a flash of insight, and it illustrated a great principle that applies to my mystical training in the Islamic tradition, my understanding of Stoicism, and my understanding of how to apply the principles here of law of assumption, law of attraction in the context of manifestation and in the context of the illustration that we go into in our channel about moving film rolls and how you move from one film roll to another. And I'll sort of try to explain it to you. It's going to be a very short video, but I was really excited and I thought I have to make a video on this because I had an insight. So Marcus Aurelius is basically talking about the soul, and he's talking about the intellect being disobedient and not knowing its place and being dissatisfied with the current mix of circumstances. And he says, in this manner the elemental parts obey the universal, for when they have been fixed in any place perforce, they remain there until again the universal shall sound the signal for dissolution. So everything that's in a sort of position that's been put there by the arrangement of the universe, that's in an arrangement, those elements remain there until the universal force changes and then disposes of them and disperses them. For example, the human body. Well, those elements remain, so to speak, as long as the human body is alive. Then when it perishes, those elements then disperse and are added to other elements. But they remain there. So this is the way nature works. The elements remain in their position for as long as nature decrees that they remain there. So is it not then strange that thy intelligent part only should be disobedient and discontented with its own place, and yet no force is imposed on it, but only those things which are conformable to its nature? Still it does not submit, but is carried in the opposite direction. So your mind is not even being forced, but it is being naturally guided, and yet still it refuses to accept its place. For the movement towards injustice and intemperance, and to anger and grief and fear, moving down the emotional scale and being dissatisfied with your current mix of circumstances, is nothing else than the act of one who deviates from nature. And we'll go into why this is. And also, when the ruling faculty is discontented with anything that happens, if something happens and you're upset about that happening, once you know about the law of attraction and once you know the laws of the universe, then too it deserts its post, for it is constituted for piety and reverence towards the gods, no less than for justice. For these qualities also are comprehended under the generic term of contentment with the constitution of things, and indeed they are prior to acts of justice. Now, deserting its post here is a very interesting concept, because in the Islamic tradition, during times of war, deserting one's post or fleeing from the battlefield is considered one of the major sins, and a sin for which no forgiveness is forthcoming in the Islamic tradition. Mystically, how can we understand this? Well, as Marcus Aurelius says, if we're discontented with our circumstances and we think that we should be in another circumstance, while the universal nature is calling us to be in the circumstance in which we're in, that is desertion, and that's fleeing your post. Now, how can we understand this within the framework of the law of assumption? Well, it goes very clearly into what we talked about film rolls. You see, when you're on a film roll, you have to follow that script, for you are in that script. And any trying to struggle against the script, for all intents and purposes, that takes you on an even lower film roll, where you're now struggling against the script. But just to keep the illustration simple, you're now on that film roll struggling against that film roll. So it's as if now you're trying to leave that film roll while the universal nature, which is law of attraction, is keeping you fixed to that film roll. So what do? Well, you can't struggle against it because that's leaving your post. So the only thing to do is to surrender to that script, surrender to the film roll, and then within the film roll, possibilities will open up first to make that film roll a little bit better. And we did go into this in some videos a few days ago, where you try to make the film roll, if you can, as comfortable as possible. So if you don't have money, the first thing you try to do on the outer is you try to set up a budget and see if you can't save a little bit more money. If you're saying, no, I shouldn't be here, and I want more money, and where's my money, and I should have more money, and you become dissatisfied or more dissatisfied with your set of circumstances, you're fleeing the battlefield. You're turning your back on your post. And what Marcus Aurelius talks about is that we should remain at our post until the universal force calls us off our post. And what is that? That means until you get into the state of the other film roll. And ironically, the only way that you can get into the state of the other film roll is by withdrawing your efforts of struggling against the script and the film roll that you're on. So what can we do today to take steps on this? Well, you do the best you can in your daily life to follow that script to the best of your ability. That's right. You become the best actor that you can in the play in which you are. And you know that that shall soon be over, because when you have these little moments of peace and moments of solitude, and even you'll get so good at this as while you're working on the current film roll and following the script, you'll be able to imagine yourself on the other film roll, and then you'll light that up. But you don't try to force it. You don't try to go against the script of this film roll and work really hard to get on that other film roll, because that's abandoning your post. And as Neville Goddard says, if you try to occupy a position that you're not yet in state with and that is not yet ripe for you, you're as a thief or a robber, because that position is not yet ripe for you. But rather you allow that position to ripen and fall into your lap, and then you're on that other film roll. So that's just a quick insight that I had while studying the meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Stay with your post and try to execute that post as faithful as you can. And then when you have time, you do the vibrational work, you do the inner work. You imagine yourself on that other film roll. You occupy the state, and then that will simply come to you. You don't have to have any struggle or any effort to do that. In fact, any struggle or effort is fleeing the battlefield. So ladies and gentlemen, if you find these videos of value, please do subscribe and like to our channel. We also have a Facebook group of Master Manifestors where we're in dialogue with one another about how to manifest and what steps to take due to the current times that we're in. Also, I am doing coaching calls where I guide you hand in hand through this methodology. We already have some satisfied clients, so if you'd like to pursue that, you can email me and I will put that in the description. So ladies and gentlemen, this week we're coming out with a lot of new videos about the nitty-gritty of rapid lifestyle transformation, of homesteading, of how to set up your plan to become independent of a boss. And we're aiming to do that within the next 6 months to a year. And anyone can do this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take you step by step how to do that. So continue watching with much love and appreciation. This is Javier, and I'll see you tomorrow.